So there are three major nutritional issues that come up when you tell people that you want to go plant-based, or even if you're thinking about it. These are the things that worry most people. One, where am I going to get my protein from? Two, where am I going to get my B12 from? And three, where am I going to get my iron from? So let's start with the first, protein, okay? So protein is the weirdest thing. People actually believe you need to eat the flesh of an animal so that you can make flesh on your body. Now, that's kind of the best argument for cannibalism, because if you need to eat flesh to make flesh, then surely you should be eating human flesh, not pig flesh or cow flesh or dog flesh or snake flesh or bird flesh or chicken flesh or fish flesh or anything else for that matter. But we get confused because we don't really understand what protein is. Your body actually makes over 100,000 different types of protein, and that's what it needs. It makes it itself. So it gets protein in. If you're eating animal protein, it comes in long chains of amino acids. I like to explain it as they're different kinds. You can bring it in as long chains like this. These are amino acids, and they make up a long chain. You can have a different strain that looks like this. You can have one that's got things branching off at every angle. They're all different, and they come in from different sources. So if you're eating a pig, for example, it comes in as pig flesh. Your body says, I can't deal with this. I've got to break it apart. So your body's got to, that's what the digestive tract then has to struggle with, this whole process. And the reason it struggles with it more than anything else is that the animal protein is cooked. And when you cook protein, it coagulates. Now, the easiest way to explain this is that when you have raw egg white, it's water soluble. You can mix water into raw egg white and whisk it up and make an omelette, for example. I know I used to make omelets, I used to eat eggs. When you cook the egg goes solid and it's no longer water soluble. So when you're taking in raw protein, you can digest it fully and you can use it. When you cook it, you're lucky if you can use between 10 and 30%. So let's take something like pumpkin seeds. It can contain up to 30% protein, as can steak. So when you cook the steak, you're going to cook the protein, it's going to coagulate. And when it coagulates, you can use 10 to 30%. So if you're getting 30 grams out of every 100 grams of steak you're eating, 10% of that is 3, 30% of it is 9 grams, 3 to 9 grams. So if you eat 100 grams of pumpkin seeds and it's raw, you're going to get all 30 grams. You're going to get a lot more protein. So in fact, you find when you go plant-based and you're getting your main source of protein from raw nuts and seeds, you also get amino acids, which are these building blocks that build the protein. All these little things here is amino acids, and you get that from every single fruit, vegetable, nut, seed. It doesn't matter whether it's kale or bananas. You will get amino acids from every single one of them. And your body links those amino acids up in different forms and then gets all these hundreds and thousands of different kinds of protein that we use for different functions. What I've actually found is that people that eat animal protein actually eat a lot more protein because they're getting so little because it's been cooked. Now, you can eat animal products raw, and some people do. The problem is you then expose your body to over 400 different parasites that could get into your body because the animal protein's not cooked. The parasites get into your body either via live parasites or in the form of eggs. If you're wanting to destroy parasites in the animal products, you've got to cook it really well, like overcook it. Now you're really destroying a lot of the protein. So there's this continual dilemma. You've got this cooked protein, which is really hard on your kidneys to handle. And we find people with kidney disease, for example, when they remove all animal products from their diets, their kidneys start to function properly. I've dealt with people that have got one kidney left, they're on dialysis, they're waiting for a donor kidney, and they get onto a whole food plant-based diet, lots of fresh raw fruit and vegetables, that kidney starts working beautifully. Stunningly, I've seen it time and time again. And that's how hard cooked protein is on us. So where do you get your protein from? You get amino acids in every single fruit, vegetable, grain, nut, seed, legume. It's more concentrated in nuts and seeds, but you find complete protein, for example. That's all the amino acids, all the 8 or 9 amino acids you need to make complete protein in a banana. It's very low, it's about 2 or 3%, but it's still there. You get concentrated protein in almonds, pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds, sesame seeds. You decide where you're getting your protein from. You eat a variety of foods, and the thing that you learn on our free program is how much protein do you actually need. But it's very easy to get all your protein you need from eating any plant foods because they all contain amino acids in the right form. If you're eating them raw, like fresh fruit, you can eat raw, you're getting the building blocks of protein. Your body doesn't have to undo all of it, strain your kidneys, overwork your stomach. It just simply, I've got the building blocks, I don't have to undo it. It's like building a house from scratch and you've got all nice bricks and you start from new, or having to break a building down and then use all those bricks and knock off all the concrete and unscrew everything and then rebuild it with the same things. It's not going to be as strong as a house that's been built with new materials. The next thing is, where do you get your vitamin B12 from? Studies have shown that 40% of meat eaters, vegetarians and vegans all suffer from a vitamin B12 deficiency. So we've been told that vegans particularly are B12 deficient. And what I've actually found, that it doesn't matter what kind of food you eat. If you're eating a junk diet, you're likely to be B12 deficient. If you're eating a highly processed diet with a lot of cooked food in it, there's more chance of you being B12 deficient. If you're eating more raw, fresh food in your diet, you don't have to go totally raw. There are no communities that eat a totally raw food diet anywhere in the world, but there are people that eat a lot of fresh, raw foods like salads and fresh fruits. And the more of that you eat, the more likely you are to get natural B12 from the foods that you... If you pull a carrot out of the ground, for example, those little hairs on the carrot have got B12. It's actually a bacteria. It's attached to those roots. But we go and we scrape the skin off, or we peel the carrot and we scrub it and we wash it with soap and we sterilize our environment. I'm not surprised that there's B12 deficiency. It's very rare to find B12 deficiencies amongst plant-based people living in rural communities. For example, in places like India, vitamin B12 levels are very low. They don't sterilize everything in their home. When you're a vegan living in a big city, you're not only sterilizing your house with all these cleaning materials, and it's not about living dirty. You can be clean without sterilizing everything. It's not only about that, it's also about the fact that in the cities, we're drinking water, which this is free of chlorine, full of chlorine to sterilize all the ugly noo-noos in our water. And that chlorine gets into your digestive tract and sterilizes your digestive tract. Now, what does that mean? It means that you're going to sterilize and destroy the very friendly bacteria that actually make vitamin B12 in your gut. Your gut flora, your gut biome, those friendly bacteria that actually communicate with the brain and help the body to function so efficiently, the more time has gone by, the more we've realized from studies how very important our gut biome is and how essential it is to even mental health. So that gut biome, those friendly bacteria manufacture and make vitamin B12, but they won't if you're drinking chlorinated water and sterilizing your digestive tract. They won't if you consume alcohol, because alcohol is a sterilizing agent. It sterilizes your digestive tract. And if you're mixing proteins and starches in your stomach at the same time, they're likely to ferment and also produce alcohol. So it's how we're eating and what we're eating. And these are things that we learn about in a lot more detail. But when your gut is healthy, it doesn't matter whether you're vegan, vegetarian, or meat eater, you're more likely to have enough vitamin B12 to be fully healthy and functional. And the third one is, where are you going to get your iron from? The weirdest thing is, when they did the China study, it was a culmination of over 400 studies over a 30-year period involving 1 million people, over more than 1 million people. But in the China study, they found that in rural communities in China where very little animal products are eaten, the iron content that they consumed from their diet was much lower than the iron content of diets of the average American, because they weren't eating a lot of animals containing blood, for example. So, but there's iron in every single fruit and vegetable. If you look up bananas on a nutritional chart, you can Google it, how much iron is in a banana, an apple, a pear, in legumes, in whole grains. All of them contain iron in a very usable form. We've all been taught that you have to have heme iron. Heme iron means iron that's come from blood. So in other words, let's go back to it. If you drink blood, you will have high iron levels. Well, the weird thing about it is the people that consume the most heme iron from animal sources in the United States of America have much lower levels of iron than the rural Chinese that consume very little heme iron, and most of their iron comes from plants. So the studies are showing that the people that consume a whole food plant-based diet have much higher levels of iron and very regulated. We find, for example, a condition called hematomacrosis, where the iron levels are too high in some people. The quickest way to get rid of that, the traditional way of doing it, is to go and donate blood. But the quickest way to regulate your iron and reduce the very high levels, which can be dangerous, is to simply cut out all animal products, because the iron that's from animal's blood has now been cooked and your body can't process it or use it, and that's the problem with it. So the most common cause of iron deficiency anemia in westernized countries, which is found very high levels amongst women and children, heavy menstrual bleeding, for example, in women causes iron deficiency anemia. And what causes heavy menstrual bleeding? Animal products. If you consume dairy products, chicken, fish, meat, your menstrual period is likely to be more painful and a lot heavier. So the more blood you lose, the more iron you're losing. So once you go plant-based, you don't lose all this blood. It's very little, and there's no inflammation. Another cause of iron deficiency anemia is consuming gluten in our diets. And so if you look at westernized cultures, our diets are very centered around bread and pasta. And so you find that children really live on that, and it's one of the reasons you'll find that iron levels are very low in children. So when people go vegan or vegetarian and they're living on white bread and white pasta and it's just gluten and it's processed foods, sure, you're going to be deficient. If you're consuming alcohol, you could be deficient in B12. So if you're having your white bread and your white pasta and a glass of, you're B12 deficient and you're iron deficient. At the end of the day, what helps you balance your iron levels is making sure that you are eating a good variety of raw, fresh, whole foods, as in fresh fruits, vegetables, grains, and legumes. And if you do that, you will find that you have enough protein, enough vitamin B12, and you have enough iron for perfect health.